So I'm working on the outline for episode 1 of the Audacity of Ambition podcast. And as I'm writing out my thoughts, I can't help but go back to the idea that I'm going to be called crazy for my beliefs and for the things that I'm putting out in the show. And they're not conspiracy theories or anything like that. That's not what the show is about. It's about the audacity of being ambitious and this idea that love and unity and connection can win, but that there's also great power forces at play that keep that from happening. And I've talked about this stuff before very loudly back. I protested the Iraq War in high school very vocally in a very small town. I was wildly conservative, who many of my classmates had joined the military after 9/11 to go fight in the very war that I was vocally and adamantly against. One of those people is now a very good friend of mine. And my family, who was on the side of, the war and the Republicans, let me know any chance they got that I was a traitor, that I was unpatriotic, that I was on the wrong side of history, that this was a just and good war. They called me crazy. They gaslit me into believing that, or tried to gaslight me into believing that what I stood for passionately, earnestly, was wrong. And they twisted facts that I just knew weren't true to make it, so that what was happening in the world was good, and America was this victor that we needed to celebrate it. And I just saw things very differently. And at the same time, I was very much aware of the rise of, I didn't have a word for it then, but I do now, Christian nationalism, and how very many of the people that I went to school with and, grew up with were falling into that camp of evangelical Christian nationalism, and that this is the belief they have that this is a Christian nation, and that's an impenetrable belief. And I was the weird kid that said, I don't think that's true. I don't think that that's what we should be doing in this country. And I stood very firmly against that push that they all had toward Christian dominance. And, all of that is really coming to the surface right now. And much of what this podcast is about is that this moment that we're in, this great awakening that we're in, and what we get to do now moving forward. And I'm having this moment of flashback to the very visceral response that I got the last time I was very optimistic and very hopeful for peace and love and unity in a time when that was very much not wanted by a lot of people. And I just have all of those things that people said running in the back of my mind as I'm writing out this episode outline of what I want to say. And this is the fear that is coming up for me. This is that inner voice that is trying to keep me playing small. This is that reminder that has been conditioned into me, this thought that was conditioned into me of this is why you shouldn't play big. This is why you shouldn't get your thoughts out there, because you're going to get called crazy. You're going to be told to shut up. You're not going to be good enough, so just keep your mouth shut. This is the belief that was conditioned into me. And this is the moment where I get to recognize it and say, okay, I see you, I hear you, but I no longer choose to believe you. I no longer choose to believe the voice in my head that's telling me that I'm not good enough, that I'm not smart enough, that I haven't done enough research, that I'm just going to get called crazy, right? These are all the things that are coming into my brain, and I get the chance right now to say, I hear you, but I don't believe you. I'm choosing a different path. I'm choosing to believe and honor myself because I've been right in the past. And I know what I know, and I know what I believe, and I believe it strongly. And I've done my research, and I trust myself. I trust myself. That's what I get to say right now. I trust myself. And I trust myself enough to, if the time should come, to admit that I am wrong. I am not so firm in my beliefs that I won't ever shift them, right? When I'm wrong, I'm willing to stand up and say, you know what, I was wrong. And I think that's what we need more of in this world, is people who have strong convictions and are willing to vocalize it, but they're also willing to say, you know what, I see the other side, and I'm going to shift my beliefs because the evidence has changed. And so, I've promised to be really transparent in this process as I've been, getting this podcast together and moving forward with this project. This is, another late night musing, although it's actually not nighttime. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. But if I don't get it out now, this would be the late night musing that I would wake up thinking about. So this is it. It's like when we move forward, and if you, like, for me, what's been happening is I felt a block toward actually sitting down and writing out the outline for the very first episode. We launched February 1st, and I need to get episodes recorded and edited and all of that. But I've been having this resistance to actually sitting down and doing it. And so today I said, I'm just going to sit down and write it out and see what comes up. And this is what's coming up for me, is very much, I'm afraid that people are going to call me crazy. I'm afraid that people are going to make fun of me. I'm afraid that people are going to call me naive. I'm afraid that people are going to just look at me like I have my head in the clouds. And none of that is true. None of that is true. I know that it's not true. I know that I'm deeply rooted, deeply grounded in the real world, and that this really is possible. And I'm going to hold firm to that. And if people want to say other things about me, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I know that they are wrong. They don't know me. And I'm okay being misunderstood. I'm okay being incorrectly judged, because the understanding that I have for myself is so much deeper than the understanding that anybody else has for me. I understand myself, I trust myself, and I am brave enough to move forward with the work that I am meant to do in the world. That was my personal pep talk, and I recorded it because I think it could be helpful for somebody else going through similar circumstances where you're doing something in the world and there's a block coming up for you. Just acknowledge it, sit with it, name it, but you don't have to take it on as yours. So this is another late night musing with Nadia Black, and now I get to say the words. My podcast, The Audacity of Ambition, launches February 1st, 2021, and I'm really excited for what I'm putting out there in the world. So much excited that it's terrifying me, and that it's stuff that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I'm finally getting it out there again. So I hope that you join me on that adventure too, and that these behind the scene looks at what it takes to actually turn a vision, a dream, into reality. I hope that's helpful for you. So that's it. This was another late night musing with Nadia Black.